Hello, Mrs. Mikey here. We are finishing up with our influential people. And this week, we are going to be learning about Maya Angelou. All right, let's get started. So, who was our influential person? Well, Maya Angelou was a very famous author and poet. She was also a civil rights activist. Now, if you haven't heard of that before, you might want to talk to your parents and look into doing some research. What were civil rights? What are civil rights? It might be something you hear in the news now, too. Learn a little bit about what Maya Angelou fought for. All right, let's read a little bit about Maya Angelou. She was born on April 4th, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri. I like to get an idea of where when we're talking about location. So if you look in the map, you can see we are here. Now, Missouri is just south of us in Wisconsin. Angelou had a difficult childhood. When she was very young, her parents got divorced. Angelou and her brother were sent to live with their grandmother in Arkansas. Where is Arkansas? It's another state in the United States. So we are up here in Wisconsin. Maya Angelou grew up in Missouri, and then she moved down to Arkansas to live with her grandma. Her loving grandmother taught her the value of hard work and education. As a young girl, Angelou suffered some terrible experiences. The challenges of her early life led Maya to become mute. She did not speak for almost 5 years. Okay, we're going to stop for a second and we're going to look at this word. The word in bright yellow is mute. Mute means you do not speak. Okay, wait a second. Do we use the word mute all the time? What do we mute? Yes, we mute our microphones, right? We'll mute our microphones in class. Yes, we will mute our microphones in class. Except she muted herself because this was back in the 1920s and 30s, you guys. They didn't have computers, did not have telephones, and they did not have a mute button. She chose not to speak. Okay? She chose not to speak. It didn't mean that she wasn't smart, right? She was very smart. She just chose not to talk because she had had a very rough life and she just chose to be quiet. Now, she still learned, she still read, right? She just didn't speak. It's kind of interesting that someone who grew up when they were a child and didn't speak for 5 years would become an author and a poet. Think about that. Why is that interesting? When she was young, she did not speak. But when she got older, her job was to use words to talk through books. So she found a way to talk. And she talked through her words in her books. That's kind of a cool thing, huh? Think about it. think about how when she was young, the things that happened in her life led to who she was when she was older. Something to think about. All right. Through education, Angelou started to discover the power of her voice. And remember, when we say voice, we aren't only talking about speaking. We're talking about writing, okay? We're talking about video expression, okay? Any way to express yourself through art, through music, okay? That is a voice. That is your voice. Later, her career as a writer took off. She wrote more than 30 best-selling books. Okay, so like best-selling, right? Everybody bought them, so they were probably good books, right? we can make that we can make that guess, right? She sold 30 best-selling books. She's probably a good author. Here we go. Her biggest success was her first autobiography. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is still taught in many schools and colleges. Okay, so a couple of things first. We have been talking about historical fiction, which is based on someone that is true or an event that is true, but the story is kind of not real, right? The story's made up, or the things that happen in the story are made up, or what the characters say are made up. Okay. Now, a biography is all true. Everything's true. True, 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 true. But this says autobiography. Okay. Autobiography. That means self. Auto, self. It's a biography of herself that she wrote herself. Wait a second. Isn't that something we've been talking about in class? Isn't it a personal narrative? hmm. Let's think about that for a second. Okay. It's a story that's true, that are true events that she wrote about herself. That's a personal narrative, isn't it? Yes. Her biggest success was her very own personal narrative. It was all of her personal narratives strung together in an autobiography. Absolutely true stories. Um, let's continue down here. In January 1993, Angelou was only the second poet in U.S. history to recite a poem at the presidential inauguration. Okay, the presidential inauguration is just the day that the president actually starts his job as president. So it's like, woohoo, yay, today's his first day as president. Let's throw him a big party and give speeches for him, right? Because when the rest of us have jobs, I'm not sure that happens. Huh? So the presidential inauguration, the whole country comes to celebrate the first day of a new term and a new president. Um, so she was only the second poet in American history to ever be asked to read one of her poems at the inauguration. Pretty cool. Later, Angelou was awarded the 2010 Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama. Maya Angelou died in 2014. She's celebrated for her books, poems, and the fight for equal and civil rights. Maya Angelou is an incredible figure in both literature, poetry, and American history. So I hope that you've learned a little bit about Maya Angelou. I hope you have learned enough to maybe look up a little bit of her poetry. But more importantly, Can you tell me, was that a historical fiction or a biography? Was the information that I gave you true, a biography, or was it kind of true, kind of made up, a historical fiction? Think about it. Did I tell you a story or did I tell you true fact? If you said biography, you would be right, you guys. Those were true facts about Maya Angelou. All right, nice job today, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.